My name is Elise, I'm 31, and I don't even know where I'm sleeping tonight. I guess I deserve that. That's what's echoing in my head right now, in the cab, in the coffee shop bathroom where I cried into a roll of toilet paper, and now, in this parking lot where I've been sitting for over an hour, phone in hand, staring at his name and not daring to call. Leo. My Leo. Or, maybe not anymore. When I told him I needed to experience more, I didn't think he'd take it like that. I didn't mean another man. I didn't mean a wild fling or running off to Ibiza. God, I didn't even mean anything physical. I just meant, more life. More me. But I guess those words were a hammer, and his heart was already cracked. Let me go back. Let me start when it was still us. We met at a friend's bonfire in the mountains 6 years ago. It was stupid cliché, sparks, eye contact over wine, a fleece blanket we ended up sharing when the wind picked up. He had this dry, careful humor and the kind of eyes that don't look away when you talk. For a while, I felt like I could live inside that gaze forever. Like I was safe there. Seen. Our first few years were hot, easy, and full. He cooked breakfast shirtless, held my hand under the table at loud dinners with friends, left notes on my mirror when I was running late for work. He kissed my neck when I folded laundry. I kissed his shoulder when he stressed over client meetings. But something changed. Slowly. The way mold creeps under the surface before you even see it. We stopped touching for no reason. The kisses were still there, technically, but they were light. Habitual. Like the way you say, bless you, when someone sneezes, automatic, kind, but thoughtless. I remember one night, maybe 3 months ago. He came home late. I was in bed, pretending to read. He leaned in to kiss me, and I turned slightly too soon. His lips landed half on my cheek, half on the corner of my mouth. He laughed a little and muttered, "Close enough." I laughed too. But inside, I winced. It wasn't close enough. Not anymore. We still went to the farmer's market, we still watched dumb shows together, but it felt like we were performing our roles. Elise and Leo, long-term couple, domestic, cozy. From the outside, we looked fine. Even good. But inside? Inside, I was slowly dying of hunger, for connection, for risk, for aliveness. And I didn't know how to say that without sounding ungrateful or cruel. I thought it was me. Maybe I was broken. Selfish. I blamed it on hormones, or stress, or too many Instagram stories showing me women climbing mountains and starting over and kissing strangers on cobblestone streets. But the truth settled in late one night when I woke up at 2:17 a.m., not because of a nightmare or noise, just a jolt. I turned toward him, hoping to find his arm, hoping he'd feel me move and pull me close. He didn't. He was on the far edge of the bed, back to me, breathing heavy. And I remember this sharp ache hitting me. Not because he was distant, but because I didn't even want to scoot over and touch him. Not really. Not anymore. That's when I knew. Not in a dramatic, rom-com climax kind of way, just a still, low realization that the us we had built was comfortable, and killing something inside me. I didn't plan to say what I said that morning. It just came out. I think I need to experience more before I settle down like this. I need to know who I am outside of this house. Of us. I swear I didn't expect the silence that followed. Or the hardening of his face. Or that he'd get up, go for a run, and not say a word for the rest of the day. And I definitely didn't expect to come home the next night to find my key didn't work. Just the cold, metallic clink in the lock. And a note taped to the door that said, "I get it. You want more. So go find it." Leo's a physical guy. Always has been. He shows love with his hands, tightening a lid I can't open, rubbing my feet without asking, reaching for my waist when I passed the coffee machine in the morning. But I need words. I need presence. I need silence without scrolling. I need a, "How are you, really?" that he waits to hear the answer to. Leo is a trauma nurse. He works overnight shifts twice a week at a city hospital and carries everything in his shoulders, every code blue, every overdose, every neglected child he patches up and sends back to a world that will probably break them again. I admire him. I love that about him. But I also know it's made him compartmentalize emotions into neat little boxes. Efficient. Strong. Unshakable. And I think, somewhere along the way, he put me in one of those boxes too. It started with a plant. A stupid pothose I bought at a weekend market. I'd set it on the windowsill, careful to angle the leaves toward the sun. When he got home that evening, he didn't notice it at first. He kissed my neck, slid his hands around my waist. I stiffened, not because I didn't want to be touched, but because I wanted him to see me first. When I pulled back gently and gestured toward the plant, he blinked. "You bought a leaf?" "It's a pothose," I said. "They're supposed to be good for low light and, never mind." He smiled like I was cute. Kissed me again, deeper this time. "Missed you," he murmured. But I didn't feel missed. I felt skipped. Like the space between his hands and my skin was supposed to be enough, but I was aching for something more layered. Something he didn't seem to know how to give. Later that night, we fought over nothing. It always starts like that, a dish left out, laundry half done, something stupid that doesn't matter until it suddenly does. "I'm exhausted, Elise," he snapped. "Can you stop making everything so heavy all the time?" And there it was. That word. Heavy. Like my feelings were a burden he couldn't carry after 12 hours of saving lives. I almost asked, "And who carries me?" But I didn't. I just curled up on the far side of the bed and said nothing. Again. The next morning, he tried. In his way. He brought me coffee in my favorite mug, the one with the cracked lip I refused to throw out. He rubbed my back while I stood brushing my teeth, hands warm and wide, trying to reach through the silence between us. But I was already behind my wall. And the worst part? He didn't know why. He kissed my neck again, same as always. "Still mad?" he asked lightly, voice teasing. I didn't answer. His hands slid around my waist again. But it didn't feel tender. It felt insistent. Like he was asking me to perform intimacy just so we could check the box: touch, affection, sex, done. I turned, pulled away gently. "Can we just talk for a sec?" His eyes dimmed a little. "Talk about what, Elise?" "You never say anything." "Because every time I try, I feel like I'm talking into fog." I swallowed. Sometimes it feels like you're trying to fix things by touching me instead of actually seeing me." He frowned. "I do see you. You're here, aren't you? I bring you coffee. I hold you every night. What else do you want?" I didn't have the words. Not the right ones. Because how do you explain that love that doesn't speak your language starts to feel like loneliness? So I said the wrong thing. I said, "I don't know. Maybe I want something more." He flinched. "More?" And then I panicked. "I don't mean someone else. I don't know what I mean. I just feel like I'm fading inside this house." His jaw clenched. He stepped back like I'd slapped him. I think that was the moment he started planning what he did next. Quietly. Methodically. The nurse in him. Clean lines. No mess. I didn't know then that those 4 words, "I want something more," would echo in the empty hallway when I came home to find my key no longer fit the lock. Leo was cooking eggs in nothing but flannel pajama bottoms when it happened. That should have been sexy, right? Broad back, bare chest, morning sunlight warming his skin like a soft filter. And he was humming, off-key, careless, flipping eggs the way he always did, like breakfast was a performance just for me. I stood by the kitchen island, clutching my coffee like a shield, wearing one of his old t-shirts that used to make me feel small in a good way. Safe. Girlfriend in a movie kind of small. He glanced over his shoulder and grinned. 2 eggs or 3? You look starved. I'm fine, I mumbled. I wasn't hungry. He raised an eyebrow. You didn't eat last night. I wasn't hungry then, either. He walked over, eggs still sizzling in the pan behind him, and kissed my cheek. It was soft, warm, familiar. I didn't flinch, but I didn't lean in either. Then his hand slid over the curve of my hip, fingers squeezing gently. It wasn't crude. It wasn't demanding. It was routine. Loving, probably. Habitual, definitely. Still, I froze. He didn't notice. He chuckled and gave me a playful smack on the butt before heading back to the stove. I wrapped my arms tighter around myself. Later, we were on the couch. Some dumb reality show on. My legs were folded under me, his were sprawled open. He kept pulling me in closer, laying my legs across his lap, stroking the inside of my thigh like it was a reflex. Every time his hand moved, I felt the tiniest jolt, not of pleasure, not even discomfort. Just confusion. My mind started racing. Is he trying to initiate something? Do I pull away? Would that hurt him? Why don't I want to? Why don't I want to? He leaned in and kissed me. Soft lips, slow pace, warm breath. A kiss that was meant to lead somewhere. And all I could think about was the laundry I hadn't folded, the email I hadn't answered, and the way his lips used to make me melt, and now just felt like pressure. Not bad. Just numb. I kissed him back, because that's what people do. I kissed him back so I wouldn't have to explain the guilt that had taken up permanent residence between my ribs. When he pulled away, his eyes searched mine. You okay? Yeah, I lied, voice too fast. He narrowed his eyes. You sure? You seem a little, not here. I shrugged. I'm tired. You've been tired a lot lately. Silence. Then he sighed, rubbing his hand along my shin like he was trying to connect somehow, anywhere. You know I love you, right? I nodded. I know. He leaned his forehead against mine. I just want us to be okay. I swallowed. Me too. But even in that moment, his forehead pressed against mine, his hand on my thigh, the warmth of his body just inches away, I felt cold. Not because he didn't care. But because I didn't know how to bridge the space between the affection he offered and the type I craved. Something invisible sat between us. A thin, hard layer of emotional frost I didn't know how to melt. And the more he reached for me physically, the more I recoiled inside, like I was being pulled into a current I hadn't agreed to swim in. He shifted closer again. His fingers traced the hem of my shirt, almost absently, like testing my silence. And inside, I screamed. Why does everything have to turn into sex? We were at our favorite little Italian place, dim lights, dripping candles, a server who always gave us free tiramisu because she loved our vibe. It was supposed to be a reset. Leo had made the reservation 2 days earlier, texting me from work with a little heart and the words, "Let me take you out." Just us. I said yes. I even wore mascara, curled my hair. I tried. God, I wanted it to work. At first, it was okay. We talked about stupid stuff, his coworker who kept playing Taylor Swift in the trauma bay, a patient who tried to flirt while getting stitches. I smiled. I laughed, even. For a second, I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe I just needed to remember us like this again. But then he reached across the table, took my hand in his, warm, steady, grounding, and said, "I miss when you used to look at me like you did the first year." I blinked. He smiled, unsure. "You know, like I was the only thing in the room. You used to light up when I walked in. Now you barely flinch." It hit harder than he meant it to. I looked down at our hands. His thumb started tracing soft circles over mine. "You still love me, right?" he asked, lightly. Like it was a joke. Like the answer was obvious. I felt the pressure in my chest rise like a tide. "Elise?" That's when the glass cracked. "I don't know." I snapped, louder than I meant to. The table next to us went quiet. My voice had risen like it belonged to someone else. His hand dropped from mine. "What?" "I don't know if I love you like that anymore, Leo. I don't even know who I am anymore." He stared at me, stunned. "Where the hell is this coming from?" "From months of pretending I'm okay when I'm not," I said, my voice trembling. "From forcing myself to kiss you when my chest is locked up. From saying, 'I love you,' on autopilot while my insides are screaming for space." He leaned back, jaw tightening. "So, what, you're done? That's it? After everything?" "No." I snapped, tears welling. "I'm not saying I'm done. I'm saying I can't keep doing this version of us, where you think touching my waist fixes everything, and I'm drowning in silence because I can't explain what I need." The server approached with our pasta, her expression tentative, eyes flicking between us like a deer in headlights. Leo shook his head, muttering, "We're good, thanks," and she backed away. I dropped my face into my hands. He exhaled through his nose, slow and sharp. "You could have said this before. Before we built everything." I looked up, tears streaking my cheeks. "I didn't know before. I thought this was what I wanted. But somewhere along the way, I stopped recognizing myself, and I thought it was just stress, or routine, or growing up, but now I'm not sure it's not us." He was quiet for a long beat. Then, "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need to find myself again before I can promise forever." He pushed his chair back. The screech of it echoed like a slap. "You want to go sleep around first, is that it?" My stomach turned. "That's not fair." "That's what it sounds like." I opened my mouth, then closed it. My throat was tight, raw. He stood, tossed a few bills on the table, and walked out. And I just sat there. Alone, in a soft dress I'd worn to try to feel beautiful again, now soaked with shame and tears. And God help me, the first thing I thought wasn't I hurt him. It was, why did I say it like that? Why did I blow up now, when we were trying? Why did I destroy something I wasn't even sure I wanted to save? I felt guilty. Pathetic. Like I'd failed at a test I didn't know I was taking. Because I still loved him, I think. I just didn't love the way we kept missing each other. And I hated myself for wanting more. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Not peaceful, sterile. As if silence itself had taken up residence and decided to unpack in every corner. The hum of the fridge became company. The sound of my own spoon clinking against a bowl felt intrusive. It had been 10 days since the dinner. Leo hadn't yelled. He hadn't slammed a door or thrown anything. He just retreated. At first, I thought it was temporary. I figured he'd need a night, maybe two. But then the space between us stopped being temporary and started feeling like architecture, fixed, cold, designed for function but not comfort. He slept on the far side of the bed. We barely spoke. Mornings passed with nods instead of kisses. He left for work without saying goodbye. I stopped texting midday like I used to. Neither of us knew how to go first. I watched him move through our shared life like a shadow, present, but muted. One night, I found him on the balcony, shoulders hunched over, cigarette in hand even though he hadn't smoked in years. I stood in the kitchen, lights off, watching him through the sliding door. His face was drawn. Not angry, just worn. His thumb tapped the lighter over and over, never igniting it. He looked so tired. And for the first time in a while, I remembered the man I fell in love with. Not the one who grabbed my hips in the kitchen. Not the one who tried to make everything better with a kiss. But the man who stayed up until 4 a.m. helping me edit my grad school essays. The man who made a blanket fort during the blackout and read poetry to me with a flashlight tucked under his chin. The man who held my hair when I had food poisoning and said I still looked beautiful with my face in a toilet. He wasn't the villain of my loneliness. He was just as lost as I was. A few mornings later, I reached for the coffee pot, and his hand accidentally brushed mine. He pulled back like he'd touched fire. I wasn't trying to start something, he said quickly. I blinked. I didn't think you were. His jaw clenched. It's hard to tell these days. That silence after, it hurt more than the fights. He was grieving something, too, even if he didn't have the words for it. Maybe the version of me he'd loved. Maybe the future he thought we were building. Maybe both. And I hated how I'd made him doubt himself. Because the truth was, I still missed him. His ridiculous laugh when he watched fail videos. The way he smelled after a shower. The way his voice dipped when he whispered, "Home," against my shoulder. I missed those things with a bone-deep ache. But every time I thought about closing the distance between us, something in me hesitated, like my hand hovered over a bruise I wasn't ready to press. What if we went back, and I still felt empty? What if I tried, and he didn't? I sat on the edge of our bed that night, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't recognize myself. Not entirely. And that's when I realized, maybe this wasn't just about us. Maybe I didn't need to experience more, in the way he thought, other men, wild nights, freedom. Maybe I just needed to know who I was outside of him. But part of me still wanted us. Or at least wanted the chance to see if we were still in there, buried under all the distance and unspoken pain. So I made a decision. Tomorrow, I'd ask him to talk. One honest conversation, no blame, no touching, no fixing. Just truth. And if we couldn't meet each other there? Then maybe I'd walk away. But not before trying, really trying, one last time. I found him sitting on the floor of our bedroom, back against the dresser, scrolling mindlessly through his phone. The lamp cast a soft yellow haze around him, and for a second, he looked like a stranger. "Can we talk?" I asked. He didn't look up right away, but he nodded. Quietly. Like he already knew what was coming. I sat cross-legged across from him, knees almost touching. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then I spoke. "I don't want to hurt you anymore, Leo. I haven't felt like myself in a long time." He nodded again. "I know. You do? I've seen it," he said. "You've been slipping away in pieces. I just didn't know how to hold on without making you feel trapped." His voice cracked on the last word. My throat burned. I wish I'd said something sooner. He smiled, not warmly, but kindly, like someone offering comfort to a person they've already started letting go of. "You did. Just not with words." There was something final in the way he said it. A quiet acceptance. "Do you still love me?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. "Then, I do. But not the way I used to." I don't know if that's because of time, or because of everything we've become. It was the kindest, most devastating truth I'd ever heard. I nodded. I felt my chest rise and fall in slow, heavy waves. I think I needed space to figure myself out. I thought that would mean taking a trip, trying something wild, but it turns out, what I really needed was stillness. And honesty. He looked at me then. Really looked. So what now? I reached forward, placed my hand on his knee. He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. But he didn't reach back either. I don't know, I said. But I think we both deserve something that doesn't feel this hard. He swallowed. His eyes were glassy. I'm going to stay at Claire's for a while, I added. Not to punish you. Just to clear my head. To give us both a break from the tension. He nodded slowly. Okay. A silence settled again. But it wasn't angry or cold. Just sad. Just real. Then, gently, he reached forward and touched my hand, not to pull me closer, but to say goodbye in a way words couldn't. We sat like that for a moment. His hand on mine. My heart aching in a way that didn't beg to be fixed, just felt. As I stood to leave, he rose too. And before I could walk out, he leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. It was tender. Final. I didn't cry until I was halfway down the stairs. You think when a relationship ends, or begins to end, it'll come with shouting, door slams, accusations. Something cinematic. But what they don't show you in movies is how heartbreak can sound like silence. Like toothbrushes no longer touching in a cup. Like coffee poured for one. Like someone walking past you in the hallway and not brushing your arm. I used to think love was about intensity, the grand gestures, the heat, the passion. And it is, in the beginning. That stuff sweeps you off your feet. But what no one prepares you for is how love settles. How it takes root in quiet rituals. How the same lips that once undressed you with hunger can eventually kiss your forehead like you're made of paper. Leo and I were together 5 years. And we were good, at least, we looked good. Our photos were full of smiles. Our dinners were full of stories. Our bed was warm, our routine stable. But under the surface, I had been shrinking. Not because of him. And not entirely because of me either. It's more like, we built a life around a version of me I didn't know I was outgrowing. He showed love through touch. His hands always knew where to find my waist, my shoulder, my thigh. But after a while, it stopped feeling like love. It started feeling like I was being handled, not seen. And I hated that I couldn't explain why. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't selfish. He loved me the way he knew how. But I needed something less physical, more emotional, more words, more pauses, more witnessing. I needed someone to ask me how I was and mean it. I needed space to breathe without being pulled back in by a kiss I wasn't ready for. And for a long time, I blamed myself for that. I thought, what's wrong with me? Why don't I want what I used to? I thought it was a phase. Or maybe stress. Or maybe I was just broken in a way I didn't have the vocabulary for yet. But now I think, sometimes love grows crooked. Not because you didn't water it, but because the soil wasn't right. Or maybe the light changed and you didn't notice until the leaves started to curl. When I told him I needed to experience more, I think what I really meant was, I needed to meet myself again. Outside of being his person. Outside of being anyone's person. I wasn't asking to explore other men. I was asking to explore me. But he didn't hear that. And maybe that's on me, for choosing the wrong words. Or maybe it's on both of us, for going so long without truly listening. He changed the locks the day after I moved out. It wasn't spiteful. He texted me, "Let me know if you need to come by. I just need space to move on." I stared at that message for a long time. It felt so final. But also, honest. We didn't end with hatred. We ended with heaviness. Like exhaling after holding your breath for years. And now? Now I'm learning to sit with myself again. Some days I miss him with a kind of dull ache. Not just him, the version of us that laughed in grocery aisles and danced in socks on the hardwood floor. But I don't miss how small I felt trying to hold it together. I've learned that intimacy isn't just sex or cuddling or falling asleep in the crook of someone's arm. Intimacy is being known. Fully. Flaws and all. And still being chosen. Still being asked, "How are you today?" And meaning it. I don't know if Leo and I could have found our way back to that. But I do know this, losing someone who loves you doesn't mean you failed. And walking away doesn't mean you didn't love them enough. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave the comfort of someone else's love, to learn how to love yourself properly. Even if it means locking the door behind you.